Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. This next episode is all about whether or not you are overtraining or you feel like you're overtraining, or maybe you're just not recovering enough. Okay, so if you've been killing it in the gym and you're feeling really good, and at first you were super motivated, but now it feels like no matter how much sleep you get, it's not enough. You're angry and short-tempered. You're a bottomless pit. No matter how much water you drink or fiber you eat or protein you eat, you're still feeling super, super hungry. You used to get excited to work out, and now every workout feels like an absolute drag. These are really, really big signs of overtraining. However, it could also mean that you're not recovering properly. And part of that I'm going to talk about is like where it comes to things like sleep and stress management and foam rolling and taking Epsom salts, Epsom baths with Epsom salt. They help with recovery. Anyways, like those are all really, really powerful things, actually, and hydration as well. Making sure you're stretching, sleeping, foam rolling, doing yoga, taking hot baths, cold baths, icing, all of those things are going to help with the recovery process. So we want to make sure you're putting those in place. But obviously, where my specialty lies is in more your nutrition. So we want to make sure that you're recovering well and eating enough to fuel your workouts, or eating the right kind of sorts of foods to help fuel your workouts. Because very often, this is very common, especially when I work with women, you can overtrain and then you're trying to, lose weight, and you're doing it the wrong way by doing like a low carb diet. And so you're under fueling, and then that's where it can get a little dangerous. You can be at a increased risk for injury. That's when we get hangry. That's when our moods are just down, our libido's down. Just everything is just like not great. And it's like, what's the point of training this hard and trying to achieve a certain body if you're miserable? Like, there's just no point in that. So anyways, this episode is really just about how to make sure that you are recovering properly after your workouts. Like I said, particularly when it comes to your nutrition. But I will say that if you're not doing those things, like sometimes if you're training super heavy, so if you're doing like high intensity training and you're doing it like 5 days a week and you have a very busy life and a busy job, and you are constantly like on the go, then you might need 8+ hours of sleep. So the daily recommendation of sleep is 7 to 8 hours. But if you're training super heavy, then you probably need closer to 8 or 9, or make some time for like a 20-minute power nap in the middle of the day. So making sure that your sleep is like honestly the best thing when it comes to recovery. And then also making sure that you're doing those things like foam rolling, stretching, taking that hot bath with, those salts inside of it that help relax your muscles. That's going to be super, super helpful. So really what I wanted to talk about today is mostly how to recover from your workouts. Because then we know if you're doing all of these things, if you're foam rolling, if you're stretching, if you're doing yoga, if you're doing hot water baths, cold water baths, like all of these things, and you're fueling properly and you're eating properly, and you're still feeling tired and super hungry and short-tempered and angry and moody, and no matter how much you sleep, it's not enough, then you're probably overtraining. Or there might be an underlying medical condition. I will say that could obviously always be a case, unfortunately. But chances are, if you're putting in, high intensity training days, 4 to 5 days a week, and maybe doing 2-a-days, all that stuff, then you could be overtraining. Now, everyone's goals are different. And also everyone's bodies are different. So honestly, guys, you guys know I've just started recently getting back into fitness because I had to take a year off because I had mono. And as I'm getting myself back, I'm like super sensitive to the training regimen I used to do. I used to strength train, 4 to 5 days a week. I would do loads of cardio. I loved fitness. Like I genuinely loved it. And I have to work my way back up to that. I can't just magically get there. And through that process, I'm noticing that I'm a lot more sore and achy, and I've had to spend a lot more time in that recovery process if I want to build myself back to that. Or honestly, I might never get back to that because my body just hasn't been responding to it in a positive way recently. And it's really hard to pay attention to that and listen to that, but I am paying attention to it. It's hard to listen to it. It's a hard pill to swallow when you like genuinely are a big lover of fitness, to feel like my body has just been craving more things like yoga and Pilates, just more slow stuff. And strength training, I love it, but it's just, I don't know, I'm getting a lot of soreness, which I guess is normal. But it's just, my body is telling me something that I'm trying to listen to. And that's important to know, right? So what's overtraining for me and what's overtraining for you are going to be very, very different. And what's overtraining for me now is very different than what would have been overtraining for me, 2 years ago before I had gotten the mono and everything like that. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about your nutrition, okay? So I want to give you some just basic things, and I've talked about this before, probably if you're in my Facebook group, if you've heard me on my Instagram stories, all these things. After a workout, carbs and protein are super important, and low fat, because if we have too much fat after a workout, then the carbs will be slowed, and we need fast-acting carbs to help bring and transport the protein to the muscle. So after you work out, your muscles break down, and your body uses carbohydrates as a source of fuel. And so if you have expended those energy reserves, then your body is going to look for it in the muscle. So if you're not eating enough carbohydrates, it will pull from the muscle. We don't want that. We don't want your body going to the muscle, okay? We want your body to be feeling fueled and not feeling threatened, and constantly, giving it what it needs so it doesn't have to go and tap into its energy stores, okay? So we want to make sure that after a workout or even before a workout, we're consuming some sort of fast-acting carbohydrate. So rice, pasta, bread, all the things that you hear you quote unquote shouldn't have, you absolutely want to have those around time of exercise. Fruit is also really, really, really great around time of exercise. Oatmeal is a good one. It does have some fiber, so it might be better post-workout than before. It all is a matter of how much time you have to digest it. But all that to say that when we're thinking about recovery, we're not even just thinking about like immediately after the workout. We're thinking about the whole day. And so making carbohydrates present at all of your meals is going to really help with that recovery process, but it's particularly around time of exercise. It's going to be even more beneficial. So if you're someone who tracks your macros or your calories or your carbs, I really don't like giving like general advice where I give you like breakdowns of like how much carbs and all that stuff. But I understand that not everybody can work with me one-on-one. And so I want to serve you the best way that I can. All that to say, please never get so obsessed and caught up in numbers. And if it's ever hurting you more than it's helping you, please just get rid of it. Just don't use it. But if you want to just have a general sense, and you're someone who tracks your calories or your macros, then before you work out, you want to intake about 20 to 25% of your total carbohydrate needs before your workout. And then about 20, or even if you're on a fat loss plan, you can go down to 15%. And then afterwards, about 25% of your total carbohydrate needs after the workout. So for example, and these numbers are not completely accurate because I did not write this out, and I'm just going based off of my brain power. This is so far off. Maybe I should calculate it. All right, hold on. I'm going to pause this, calculate it, and let you know in a second. Okay, and we're back. I brought up my calculator. So if you are someone who say you need 200 grams of carbohydrates in a day, then before a workout, if we were going to do 25% of 200, oh God, there goes my calculator. That's about 50 grams. So 20 to 25% is anywhere from like 40 to 50 grams. So about 45 grams before a workout of carbohydrate. So honestly, a banana is a perfect example of that. Okay, a banana has 45 grams of carbohydrate, relatively about a medium-sized banana. Okay, now if you were to have something after your workout, we want to go closer to that 25%. So say you need 200 grams of carbs per day, and now we do, once again, that 25, that's going to be that 50 grams. And then so another 50 grams about after the workout. Okay, so that's like about, if you really think about it, about 50% of your total carbohydrate needs are required around the time that you work out. Now, having carbs later in the day at your lunch and at your dinner is going to be super helpful as well. You just might not need as much of them, right? You might just need a serving, so like a piece of bread or a half a cup of rice or 3 ounces of a sweet potato or anything like that. Okay, now with the carbs, we need protein, specifically proteins that have the branched chain amino acids called leucine inside, because those are the ones that are going to help to initiate what is called protein synthesis, which is basically it's just a fancy way of saying where you're going to help your muscles come back together. Okay, so examples of foods that contain leucine are tofu, eggs, beans, milk, and cottage cheese, and also any animal protein. So chicken, fish, beef, pork, all sources of animal protein will have all of the branched chain amino acids, particularly leucine. But if you're someone who is plant-based or vegetarian, then you can get them through tofu, eggs, beans, milk, cottage cheese. All right? Now, considering you're eating 3 meals a day, snacking in between, consuming carbs, consuming protein. Yes, you want to have healthy fats as well, actually going on to healthy fats. They're like super important actually with the inflammation process. So when we exercise and when we're sore, that's a sense of inflammation. And so to decrease that inflammation, we want to be making sure that we're consuming enough healthy fats, particularly what are called omega-3 fatty acids. And you can do that through food by having things like chia seeds and flax seeds. Fish is actually going to be the best source for that. So if you're having 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, that's going to be awesome. And if you are a vegetarian or a lacto-ovo-vegetarian and you do not consume fish, you can get omega-3s through those sources like olive oil, walnuts, flaxseed, chia seeds. However, your body's ability to absorb it is not as high. And if you're training at that intensity, chances are you probably might need a little bit more. So considering an omega-3 supplement is something you could consider. I use mine, the brand I use is called Nordic Naturals. Anytime you're using a supplement, make sure that you are looking for that NSF stamp or informed choice. Just make sure that it's been tested by a third party and it's by a brand that you can trust, and it's actually whatever's in there actually says it's in there. Other great things for recovery actually is tart cherry juice. So if you wanted to just have 4 to 6 ounces or even 8 ounces of tart cherry juice after a workout. Ginger is also really great for inflammation. So if you wanted to throw like ginger, you could have like a ginger tea or throw ginger in a smoothie. Those are going to help a lot when it comes to the recovery process. And, in general, making sure you're just, like I said, fueling properly. So I feel like I kind of skipped a little bit here, but when it comes to kind of if you are someone who tracks your macros and you are someone who does more of like an endurance cardio sport, then making sure that of your total calories, 60% of your total calories are coming from carbs, 20% is coming from protein, and 20% is coming from fat. If you're someone who does more weight training, more strength training, and you're someone who tracks your calories and your macros, then you want to have 45% of your total calories coming from carbohydrates, carbohydrates, 30% coming from protein, and 25% coming from fat. And if you're someone who does a combination of both, then you want to have 55% of your total calories coming from carbs, 25% coming from protein, and then 20% coming from fat. So if you are someone who tracks calories, carbs, and macros, that's kind of where you want to start, because then you're going to know how many carbs you need each day, and then you'll be able to identify when to place those, making sure you're doing that properly. And it'll also help you to make sure you're eating enough protein, and then also getting enough of those healthy fats. So if you've noticed, all macros do matter. So we talk about macronutrients, we're talking about carbohydrates, protein, and fat, and the quality and the sources of those are what matter as well. So around time of exercise, we want those simple carbohydrates. Away from time of exercise, we want those complex carbohydrates, super high in fiber. And for our proteins, we want to do a lot of the animal-based proteins are going to be best, particularly having something like fish 2 to 3 times a week. And then you can also alternate and put in those like plant-based proteins like tofu, eggs, beans, milk. And when I say plant-based, I know like eggs and dairy aren't technically plant-based. But if you're a lacto-ovo vegetarian, then those would suffice. When it comes to supplements, make sure you're checking for the NSF label or the Informed Choice stamp. Maybe experiment with some tart cherry juice, throw some ginger in some things. And that is the recap of making sure that you are recovering properly. So another recap, I'll just say, sleep is super important. Sleep, naps, foam roll, stress management, hot water baths, salted baths, Epsom salts. I can't say it. Those matter first. Your nutrition is like the cherry on top, and then supplements are even the cherry and the cherry on top of that. So really make sure we're tuning in on, honestly, the most basic things: fueling pre and post workout, eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, the most basic things. And then once you have that foundation, we can go onto that deeper layer of things and actually making sure that your body's getting the right amount of carbohydrates, the right amount of protein, the right amount of fat. I will say this is for those macronutrient breakdowns, or for someone who really is training, a good amount. Like I said, like they're really feeling that, they're really doing, like they're hitting those, 5 days a week, an hour a day or so, pretty intense stuff. For your everyday average person, it really does depend on the overall goal. But it's honestly not going to be too far off from that. Okay. If you want more specifics, don't hesitate to email me, tipswithtony@gmail.com. I'm super excited to announce that you'll actually be hearing from me 3 times in a week. So Mondays are going to be my solo episodes for November. Wednesdays, I'm going to have the guest interview. And then Fridays is going to be a quick 5-minute solo episode just to get you to recap the week, get you into the weekend, get you feeling good. I want to be there for you more going into 2021. I will tell you more about that in the next episode coming out this Friday. Super excited. Love you so much. Thanks so much for listening. If you like the episode, screenshot it, share it on your story, share it with a friend, tag someone, tag me. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.